This time, we're going to talk about how one of my students went from zero experience to publishing 3 games in 27 days. And I'm going to explain out every detail of how I came up with my systems that helped them along the way. So let's get started. So here's a real world example of a conversation that happened in my private game dev group where one student published 3 games in just 27 days with 0 prior experience and 0 coding experience. If you're listening and you're not watching the video, it's a screenshot of a conversation that happened inside my group where one student posted that they published their 3rd game in just 27 days, and another student asked them if they had any prior game dev experience or prior coding experience, and the student that made the post that no, they had 0 initial game dev experience and 0 coding experience, and they were able to publish their 3rd game in 27 days by following my systems and my roadmap that I lay out and I provide to my students. The systems, roadmaps, and frameworks I created that my students are following and finding major success were not something I came up with overnight. It's something that I've been developing over the last 5 years or so. It's something that took me from 0 coding experience to becoming a professional software engineer working on multi-billion-dollar projects, and now applying that to my game dev journey and sharing it with my students so they can apply it to their game dev journey along the way, and they're seeing real results rapidly. So to start from the beginning, a few years ago, I was just a basic high school teacher with no experience in coding, but I wanted something different for my life, for my family's life, for my kids. At that time, I had 2 children, and I wanted more for them. So I knew as a teacher I was capped at a certain salary, and it was going to take me decades to get to the cap, and that wasn't good enough. So I started to learn web development at night, after work, after taking care of my kids, after putting them to bed. And it was rough. It was tough. I bought some Udemy courses. I followed those. I watched YouTube developers, and I built out projects night after night after night, building out a portfolio and building out my skills that finally landed me a job as a software engineer. And now, over the last few years, I've got to work on multi-million and multi-billion-dollar projects because of that. Along the time, I also started to learn game development on the side as a hobby. And I started like you. I started watching the YouTube devs, the gurus out there, the people who have been successful. I've bought their courses. I followed along. I went through their courses. I built it out. I started building my own games. But I wasn't happy with the progress I was making. The information seemed to always be changing by these devs that whatever the hot topic was at the time, they flip-flopped a lot, and none of the advice seemed to line up, especially with what they were doing or what they were showing. And I'm not calling anyone out on this. I'm just saying the advice out there I think wasn't the best and is still not the best for game development. Now, these devs are successful and they do have good advice sometimes, so I'm not going to call anyone out or point any fingers. But I think the structure out there for devs like you and devs like me is it lacks structure. Actually, there's a lot of generic information that floats around and bounces around between developers that it seems like when one creates something, then another one creates it. I don't know how many times I've seen or how many thumbnails I've seen out there recently of the thumbnail says alone. Recently, the last 6 months maybe, the big topic is game development as alone. And once you see 2, 3, 4, 5 developers creating all the same content, it should send up a red flag in your mind and think, well, are they just repeating what everyone else is saying? Are they just trying to get views? Are they just trying to follow a trend? Because they are. There's no way all these developers out there are coming up with the exact same idea at the exact same time or within a few months time span, right? It's because they see someone's successful, so they try to repeat it. And I've fallen that into myself. I've tried doing the challenges and making horror games and trying to get the views to try to build my channel up. I'm guilty of that myself. And that's when I realized I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to just regurgitate, and I didn't want to just give the same generic information as everyone else. I wanted to actually help other developers, other young developers, indie developers, people trying to change their life for their family like I had the opportunity to. Like the senior developers gave me when they gave me a chance, when they hired me on as a professional developer. I want to do that to you. I want to help you build out your skill and help you on your path as quickly and as fast and as efficiently as possible. So I built out these structures, some frameworks that I think are the best frameworks and systems out there to get you going on your journey. And I have proof that they are. I have real live students that are using them every single day and seeing real world results rapidly. And my systems aren't just some pre-recorded recordings that I upload to a course and then I say, here's my course, I have this great course, why don't you go buy it? And then it's nothing different than a free course that's on YouTube already, because that's what these courses end up being. You spend hundreds of dollars for these courses and it's just more pre-recorded garbage that's generic and just touches the surface of game development, and it doesn't go into the actual details of how you go from zero experience to actually publishing a game, or zero experience to coding, to building your project and publishing, or sharing it to others, right? It skips, it gives you the generic information. So my systems, my roadmaps were built on how I learned what worked for me in software development that led me to a career to work on multi-billion-dollar projects. So this system, like I said, it's based on my software experience. And in the software world, the best products are always the products that ship fastest. They're the products that you can get a basic prototype done and get it out to the customer as quickly as possible. And this is what I'm laying out for my students, not only to just be efficient and to learn quickly, but it's also to teach you scope. It teaches you the basic process. It teaches you how to develop your skills with consistency, efficiency, routine. Routine's extremely important. These are topics that are not very talked about, or not talked about a lot amongst the other game devs out there on YouTube. Most of the information you hear out there is just theory. It's just another dev giving you generic information, right? It's, well, you need to pick an engine, and well, you need to focus on your hook, and well, you need to, well, there's this information about art, and whatever the hot topic is today, working with a team, working alone, right? But these things don't really matter. They don't. They don't matter if you don't know the discipline, if you don't know how to get out of tutorial hell, if you don't know how to build basic projects, if you don't know how to publish basic projects. They don't matter if you don't know how to save games, if you don't know how to use a repository. None of these things matter. A hook doesn't matter. It doesn't. Most games out there, most successful games don't have a hook, or they don't have a very strong hook. There's been a shift especially in the indie game scene, where hooks have been really focused on, and I'm not sure why. Because all throughout video game history, I know why. It's because there's been a shift in you should make story or narrative games, right? So you need a hook for that. But you don't really need a hook. You need to take something established, something that's already known, something that works, and maybe put a little twist on it, but you don't even have to put that much of a twist on it. You can literally just use a different storyline, a different character, a different environment, and it will work pretty much if you follow game design rules. And we can get into that a little bit later maybe, or maybe that'll be another topic altogether. But take like Mario, for example. What's the hook in Mario? There is no real hook in Mario, right? You jump on things, you jump over gaps, and you try not to get hit. Yeah, you can say any one of those things are a hook, but there's nothing extreme. There's nothing special about those mechanics, right? You jump on things. That's pretty much it. Don't get hit, jump on other things, and don't fall in the holes. That's pretty much what Mario is, and that's pretty much what Mario's always going to be. So why do most game devs actually fail, and how can we fix that? Well, most game devs fail because of a few reasons, but ones we're going to talk about is tutorial hell, overscoping, and poor structure, right? And we're going to talk briefly about these, because these can be their own videos on their own. But tutorial hell is a big one. We all get stuck in it, and it's not a complex problem. It's just something that it's basically fear-driven. It's something that you're afraid to happen. You're afraid to fail, so you want to stick with tutorials, and you're afraid when you create your own game, you're not going to know what to do. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's going to happen. You're not going to know what to do. You are going to fail, and that's tough. But the more we fail, the better we get. Every roadblock we hit and we fix, that's a roadblock that we're probably not going to run into in the future. Or if we do, we can go back and look at how we fixed it before. The best developers out there fail over and over and over and over again. It's not about being perfect, but it's about getting results. So the next one I said was overscope. It's a big thing. It's a huge issue that we all run into. It's when you plan out your game and then you want to add 47,000 features to your game, and then your game is this massive project that you're probably never going to finish, right? So what do you need to do to fix that, right? Well, let's first build a basic prototype. Let's design and simplify the best game possible, or the simplest game possible, that is still the core of your game, right? And how do we do that? Well, we word vomit. We throw everything out on the table. We look at the game and we say, well, what works and what doesn't work. We look at an object, we look at something that's in the game, a mechanic, and we say, if I take this out, is my game still its game at the core? If yes, then take it out. If no, we'll leave it in, we'll assess it later. And you just repeat that over and over and over. And an example for that would be like, say, Call of Duty. I haven't played Call of Duty in a while, but I'll say like first Modern Warfare Call of Duty, right? It's a classic. It's one of my favorites because it was the first iteration, first change from the classic Call of Duties 1 through 3 to the more modern version of it, right? Where real multiplayer was happening with level systems and progression and everything. But let's take a look at that. What if you take out the kill streaks, or take out some of the kill streaks, and you take out some of the perks, and you take out some of the weapons? Is it still Call of Duty? Yeah, it's still Call of Duty. As long as you have like 1 or 2 weapons, 1 or 2 perks maybe 1 or 2 kill streaks. Now if you take out every single gun in the game, is it still Call of Duty? That's what I mean by we look at what we need to take out and we say, can it be taken out, yes or no? And then we work that down to a simple version of the game. And then once we get that going, we try to make sure that that's fun, because if your basic version's not fun, then your overall game's probably not going to be fun as soon as you start throwing fancy things onto it or adding polish to it, right? And then once you have a prototype that's fun and people play it, then start adding more features to it. Add more perks, add more kill streaks, add more weapons, add weapon customization, right? These are things that you add onto it, but you have to start at the core, and that's how you manage scope. The third one was structure. Structure is something that I think is the biggest thing why my students are being successful with my structure, my frameworks, my systems. It's because structure is not taught. It's not taught out there. No one teaches you structure. No one teaches you how to go from zero to publishing games. They tell you how to do a few things here and there. They tell you to pick an engine. They tell you, oh, just try a few out, pick an engine. They tell you to start making small projects, right? But they don't give you step-by-step how to do it. They don't tell you, okay, well, what projects should I make? What tutorials should I follow? How big should my projects be? What is a small project? Is a small project a week? Is a small project a month? Is a small project 3 months? Is a small project a year? What is a small project? What types of games should I make? What skills should I have? Or what skills should I lean towards or not lean towards? Or what are my strengths and weaknesses? They lack structure in any real way. Now, some of these things are touched on here and there, but random pieces of a puzzle scattered around the room is not going to make the picture. It's not going to make the puzzle. It's not until they are put together into a structure, into the finished product, that you see the overall picture, that you see the complete puzzle. You need to put these pieces together, and my systems do that. Why do results matter more than theory? A lot of the advice out there, I think, is theory. It is. And I'm not saying theory is wrong in general or overall, but in the end, at the end of the day, implementation and results matter more than theory. You can think about game dev all you want. You can write out your game design documents. You can plan out your hooks. You can plan out your gameplay loop. You can write down your notes, and you can create these documents, and you can have all these character ideas and character plans. But in the end of the day, if you're not publishing the game, it doesn't matter. A game needs to be published for it to be a game. So that's the structure of my systems for my students, is they learn how to publish games as quickly as possible. Because the more games you have under your belt, the better off you are. And yeah, there's a few one-hit wonders out there, people who've made one game and published it and became successful, but that's extremely rare. For most of us, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. And I'm not saying just to make garbage games over and over all the time. You have to put effort into it, but you have to make games. And making games fast and getting feedback fast, reiterating, and implementing is the best way to build skill. My systems take you from 0 experience to publishing 8 games in a year. So a big thing I like to do in my group, my private group for my students, is I like to get them to finish their first game, to publish their first game in their first week. And why is this important? It's because it gives them a win. It's because it shows them the basic game dev process, from creating a project to putting stuff inside that project to building that project to publishing that project in a week. They don't need to be experts. I don't expect them to be experts. I don't expect them to remember every little detail, every line of code, how to do every single thing, but it's there to give them the process. It's there to, okay, how do I create a project? Oh, that wasn't too hard. Oh, get a little bit familiar with the engine. Oh, this is how you drag in assets. This is where the folder structure works. This is the hierarchy. This is the inspector. Oh, you can do these simple coding measures, these simple lines of code, maybe some triggers. Oh, that's how you render things to the screen. And then publishing, right? It's that simple to publish a game, to just upload the file to build it and then upload the build to the website. It's that simple. It's learning that. It's giving them a free win, an easy win, and showing them how simple game dev is as a whole. And then over time, it gets complicated the more you fit into your game. But the process behind it is actually extremely simple. And most people don't understand that. And when you see that, when you realize that, you think, I can do this. That it's not that complicated. That I can create a project, and I can publish a project, and I can play it, and I can have other people play it. And it's really cool, and it's really fun, and it feels really good. So I really want to reinforce why I built these systems out. And that's, my systems are my roadmap, my game dev ladder, my 5 fundamentals of game design. These systems are what make my students successful. And why I built these out, it's because I was a successful software developer, a successful software engineer. Not the best, but I went from 0 to becoming one, and I do that as a career now, right? And then I tried to get into game dev following the successful developers out there, the developers who have published games, who have made successful games, and not seeing success, not finding success, following exactly what they say. And something was missing. Something wasn't sitting right with me. Something seemed wrong. And so I looked back at my own career. I looked back at my path. I looked back at what I did for game development. And I looked at what they were teaching me. And I realized structure was missing. That they were giving me a lot of random information here and there, a lot of tips and tricks here and there, a lot of fluff, a lot of how to build a beautiful scene. And the scene was nothing more than a little bit of 2D scene, or how to build a game in X amount of time in 5 minutes. And then it was just a scene. It wasn't even a complete game, right? It was just to get views. A lot of the stuff out there was to get views, it seemed like. And I wasn't happy. I don't care about your developers' views, right? I go to you, a developer, for experience, for your knowledge, to pass it on to me, to help me succeed, right? And that's what I'm trying to do for you. And that's what I was hoping these successful developers would do for me. Pass their knowledge on, and it just wasn't working. So I took a step back. I said, I'm not going to follow their advice anymore. And what worked for me with software development? And I built out these systems. I said, well, what worked for me? And I went through my systems, building out my portfolio, building out a routine, building out projects, figuring out what websites worked, what software worked, analyzing games that have worked, analyzing games that professionals made that were successful, looking at games that weren't successful, and breaking things down into what worked and didn't work, right? And I feel like I'm kind of generalizing it, but these systems are built on my success in my career, what worked for me. And my students are seeing real results. So if you're watching or if you're listening and you're trying to become a game developer, or you're trying to get your foot in the door, or you're trying to become successful, or you're trying to get out of tutorial hell, or you're trying to find some structure, and you need help, you need assistance, you need structure, you need something, you can join my private game dev group today for free and finish your first game in 7 days published. You will have your first game published in 7 days for free. If that's something that interests you, check out the link in the description, and I'll see you next time.